Thank you for joining today. I know that I'm one of the last sessions between you and the holiday weekend and the beach, so I do appreciate everybody joining. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what we do at Walmart, some of the challenges we see, some of the opportunities. We're going to talk specifically about digital transformation that we have at Walmart and how data science and data is playing into that. So that's the overall agenda. Tell you a little bit about myself. I've been at Walmart for less than a year. Prior to that, I used to be chief data scientist at Honeywell. I was done in Bradstreet, and also used to work a long time ago at Fair Isaac when analytics was what we now probably call business intelligence, and then data science is now what we used to call analytics. So we've been doing this for a long time. Hopefully we'll make it worth your while for the 30 minutes, like I said, keeping you between the beach and here. So we'll try to make it worth your while and share some information. All right, so what are we doing at Walmart? We're trying to change the way people shop using data, trying to shape the future of retail. We're in a unique position given the scale that we have, as well as the number of customers that we have. So given that, we're going through our own digital transformation right now. We're really trying to change how we operate and how we interact with shoppers as we see the changes. Before I start into that, I'm going to talk about what Walmart is and where we came from. Just kind of ground the conversation, right? So in 1962, first Walmart opened, so over 50 years ago. The whole story and our whole mission in life is to make things cheaper. So if we work together, we lower the cost for everybody, lower cost for everyone. It's a famous Sam Walton quote. Also, we'll give the opportunity for everybody to see what it's like to live better and save money. That hasn't changed. That's still the same. The Walmart mission hasn't evolved at all. Our customers have. The technology has. And more importantly, how we deliver on that promise has really changed dramatically. And hence, that's the digital transformation we're underway in right now, and that I'll talk about today. As I jump into digital transformation, just a few slides on what I think digital transformation is, what I've seen, and then what it means for Walmart. You know, I look at a couple of the numbers on this slide. 45% of all revenue for companies that have made a digital transformation come from new business models. The average age of a company today is 12. You know, that blows my mind when I look at it. The average age used to be 60. Now the average age of a company is 12. $1 trillion is what's supposed to be generated by 2025, I believe is the number, in sales from digital enterprises. And then $37 billion in AI-driven revenue. So as you can see, digital transformation is driving a massive amount of change in the industries that we work in, all of us in the room, not just my industry, which is retail. And that leads me to beg the question is, what is digital transformation? And what I love about this slide here is that what this word cloud shows me is that nobody really knows what digital transformation is. You know, you see fintech, you see AI, you see things like South by Southwest in there, you see conference names, digital transformation, innovation, AI, you know, real time. You see all these buzzwords in there about what digital transformation is. I'm going to give you my opinion as a chief data officer, which is biased admittedly, heavily towards data, but my definition of digital transformation is, at its core, digital transformation is data and data science. That's all it is. You know, there's a software aspect of it, there's a user experience aspect of it, but what it really is harnessing our data and using data science to drive value from it. So it's a quote that I use is this: digital transformation is about leveraging your technology and data assets to create unique capabilities to optimize your current business, as well as create new business opportunities that might not have existed previously. So at the end of the day, you hear all the things about digital transformation, you hear chief data officer, you hear chief digital officer, what's the difference between the two? I get asked that question all the time. The reality of it is to me, digital transformation is just data science. It's what we do for a living. Everybody in this room, data and data science. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about what we do at Walmart, and then show you a couple of the examples of how we're using it today to try to change the industry. A little positive reinforcement here for the fact that I think it is just data science. The #1 investment in digital transformation programs, according to Gartner, is data and data science. If you look at it, 45% say they're still investing in this space, where others are losing ground. For example, core system and transformation is down 10% potentially. So all the money's being invested into the data environments, the platforms, the data scientists that leverage it. What happens with that is now comes the expectations. So all of us are getting the funding to drive change in our companies. We have to drive that change now. So when you get money, you also get expectations with it. So data science is driving, and as a result, what does that mean? So I can tell you what it means for Walmart. We actually keep our data strategy very simple. When I first joined about 9 months ago, I asked, what's the data strategy here? There wasn't really one in place. So what we said is, okay, let's start with some guiding principles and what data strategy is. My belief is you keep it very simple. Simplify, reuse. What does that mean? So I always use the terms common platforming, common tools, and common rules. It allows you to go fast and allows you to save money. So that was step number one for us. Step number two is control. And by control, I don't mean chief prevention officer. What I mean by that is actually knowing the data, what it's supposed to be used for, how it can be used, lineage, where it sits. Data dictionary, just start with a data dictionary, right? That's our governance that we're implementing now. We have a pretty strong governance program in place that we're working on. Third is empower. I talk a lot about empowering in this space, and the reason I do that is it's all about self-service. That's where our whole platform we're building is going, is actually enabling others to do data science work and also do just data analyst work, business analyst. And the reason that we're so strong in this area, the reason we're focused in the area so much, is because there's only so many of you sitting in this room. You know, we have needs for thousands upon thousands of business analysts and data scientists. The reality is, we probably have a couple hundred true data scientists in the company. So there's a significant amount of demand. So how do we actually get our work done? Is through self-service. If we give them a clean quality data asset with the right tools, with the right roles in place, they can do a lot of the work that we today probably have a data scientist do, freeing up the data scientist to do incrementally advanced work. So that's one of the empower part. Last but not least is drive value. This one's near and dear to me, and the reason is, if you don't drive value, everything else above that line is just a cost. Simplify, reuse, control, empower. There's cost to do that. There's cost to store the data. There's cost for the technology. There's cost. At the end of the day, if you don't drive value with the data, all you've done is spent money. So by drive value, what I mean is, I use the words monetize, use the word, what I mean by that is drive revenue. Incremental product sales, incremental market share, or save money as well. We have lots of opportunities at Walmart, as well as I'm sure you all do as well, to save money in your current processes. And we have one of the world's largest supply chains. There's plenty of room to optimize there and potentially save money. Something we do very well today, but we can always get better at. So we drive value in two ways. Increase our customer share, increase product sales, and then also saving money. That's what we do, that's how we drive. And my whole organization is built actually maps to this. So I have my technology organization, that's the first two on the left. A big engineering organization that builds platforms, leverages the platforms from the industry, brings it together, makes it available to everybody. Then on the right side of my organization, I have what I call the chief data officer side of my organization. It's more the business side, which is what I call a data asset enablement, taking raw assets and creating something we can use. Also value creation, which is how do we make money off that data. And by make money, I mean sell more things. So that's where our organization is set up, and that's our data strategy. Some examples of what we're doing today. You know, there's no shortage of challenges or questions or things we're trying to do in Walmart. Here's just a few examples bucketed up, but distribution. It's a really big one for us, actually. There's curbside pickup, there's automated pickup, there's same-day delivery, store fulfillment. These are the areas where we're moving. You probably recently saw our next-day delivery promise and commitment that we made that was in the paper. It's actually very successful right now. It's working very well. That's all data and analytics behind the scenes. You have to compress the supply chain, which means you have to compress the forecasting of the inventory to compress what's in the distribution centers and fulfillment centers to get it as close as you can to the customer to remove a day out of delivery. It's all data and analytics. Curbside pickup, really big thing for us right now. Online grocery pickup, OGP we call it. Very successful part of our business, and it's one of our key value props today, is giving customers what they want, where they want it. And so that's a very big thing. It's all data and analytics. New retail experiences. We're changing dramatically there as well. I don't know if any of you have been to Walmart recently. You may have seen the scan and go. You may have seen the checkout with me happening during Black Friday, where you actually check out with individuals standing there instead of going through the lines. Walmart, one of the challenges we have is there's so many customers that sometimes you can wait a long time in line. So we're working on that with data and analytics and technology. Know the customer. This is a huge one for us. You know, we have a lot of data on customers from the transactions they do with us, from the interactions they have with us. So what we want to do is use this data to create a valuable experience for them. One thing we'll never do, Doug McMillan, the CEO, says all the time, we'll never compromise that trust of our customers or associates. Absolutely will not do that. However, we do use the data to create better experiences for them, so that way they actually continue as customers with us. Last but not least is the ways of working. Even internally, we're using data and analytics heavily on how we change what we're doing on a daily basis. It may sound small, but when you have 2.3 million associates like we have, a small change in the way we work can actually be a multi-billion-dollar impact. So it's one of the things about data science at Walmart is that small changes can be rather impactful. As my boss always tells me, a small number times a large number is still a large number. So there's some of the things we're working on. I'm going to dig into 2 or 3 specific examples that I think might be of interest to this group around some of the things we're doing in technology and data science today and how we're using it. So the slide you see here really shows 3 things that we're rolling out right now. We're doing a lot of. You see the robot, which is on your right. The robot on the right is one of the things. I'm going to go in depth about that in a second. Also, you see virtual reality, and you're probably saying, what are we doing with virtual reality? But we're actually doing a lot. Last was the pickup tower. The pickup tower is, again, allowing customers to get things what they want, where they want. You know, we do a ton of technology and data science work at Walmart. You look at us and think we're just a retailer, but we have 4,600 stores, over 150 distribution fulfillment centers. They all live in the cloud, fully cloud native. That's where the data stores are. That's where we store the data. That's where we work with the data. It's a lot of work. We also train over 1 million associates a year using virtual reality. When you have that many associates, it's rather hard to get a consistent type of training exercise for them, right? So we actually go through this exercise and use virtual reality, which we adopted about 1.5 years ago. And then last but not least, the pickup strategy. So I think that what I want to deliver here is the fact that we do a ton of work in this space. You know, many of these events, I'm always asked, well, do you focus just on the retail side of it? The retail side of it's how we deliver our product. The technology and analytics and data we do behind the scene is how we enable them to do that. And so we consider ourselves actually a technology company or a digital enterprise, not just a retailer. Okay, so one specific example I find very interesting. You're probably looking and saying, why is he showing us a bunch of cereal boxes, right? The reason is I'm just trying to show you the complexity that we have to deal with. So there's over 250 types of cereal boxes in any one store at any given time. On top of that, in any one store at any given time, there's 250,000 SKUs. Over the course of a year, 1 million SKUs in a store. So what happens is, when we're trying to do our replenishment, our forecasting, the supply component of it, the distribution of it, is that we actually have 4.6 billion combinations of store and product. So when you actually go through that exercise from an analytics perspective, typically most systems we have won't support it. We, at one time or another, have probably broken just about every piece of software known to man. And we work with the suppliers and vendors and what we build to fix that. But the complexity we deal with and the scale is significant. You can build the best model in the world, but if you can't implement it, it's actually worthless. And so we've actually started investing heavily, specifically in GPUs. What we found is that some of the supply forecasting we were doing was taking as long as 3 to 4 weeks to run. We'd love to be down to real time. I mean, that's where we want to be. And one of our forecasts took actually about 4 weeks to run. Obviously not optimal. You can't account for things like weather, seasonality, things like that when you're dealing with something that takes 4 weeks. So we actually started going down the path with NVIDIA on the GPU side, and we now leverage GPU to solve many of our analytic challenges. I always joke around about it. You saw the pops up there. So that's right. We, Walmart, use graphic accelerators, just like most of your kids are probably using playing games like Fortnite and Call of Duty to actually run our analytics. It's the brain. You know, we use it. And I'm not talking about 3 or 4 boxes either. We have a whole farm of GPU components within the cloud and on-prem that we use to actually solve our problems. That one example I gave of 4 weeks, we actually got it down to about 4 hours using GPUs. The estimate from a CPU perspective was probably about 300, 400 servers, and we used about 5 GPU boxes to do that. So we were able to drive the value. Without it, we wouldn't have been able to. The question is, there's a cost component, but actually in this case, I don't even think we could have done it without the GPU capabilities that actually allowed us to accelerate our analytics. Other areas we're using this is a lot of computer vision work we're doing today. If you're getting fresh groceries from Walmart, the reason they're fresh is because we use imaging analytics to identify product that might not be fresh, because we don't want to put it on the shelf. We don't want to give you a product that's going to go rotten in a half hour. So we actually identify pieces of fruit and fresh groceries using imaging analytics and predict, will this at least be 5-6 days on the shelf before a customer gets it, and they'll still be good when they have it. So that's where we're using the GPUs to actually drive and change in our business today. Incremental to that, this is Oscar. It's his name. I didn't name him, but that's his name. And you'll see these coming around the stores now, and you're wondering what that is. So Oscar is actually robotics that we have in about 50 to 75 stores now. Don't quote me on that. I'd have to get the exact number for you. But what we're using it for is real-time inventory management. You see the white light on the side there? What it's doing is it's identifying what's on the shelf and what's not. As we try to get to real-time product, what's the worst possible experience, in my opinion, a retail customer could have? Walking in the shelf to get your Cheerios and there's no Cheerios. And I use Cheerios, and you probably say, why Cheerios? The reality is we sell $3 billion worth of Cheerios every year. So for us, it's a big deal. So we've got to make sure the Cheerios are on the shelf, right? And so what Oscar does is goes around and gives us a real-time data feed. That real-time data feed goes into the forecasting solutions that we are now improving through GPU. So we're trying to get to real time. We want to know if you walk into the store and you pick something off the shelf and it's the last item, we want to know right then and there there's nothing else on that shelf. Tell somebody in the back room to actually restock the shelf, incrementally in real time, also tell our supply chain, send more Cheerios to this store, all the while also working closely with our suppliers and our partners, because we see our suppliers as partners. That's how Walmart works with them, very tightly integrated, is actually we're telling them as well, there's no Cheerios on the shelf, we have no Cheerios in the back room, we need you to ship more Cheerios to us tomorrow. So that's how this works. This is a real-time data information gathering tool. That's what it is. And so Oscar is rolling out, like I said, across the country. You'll see more and more of them coming down. It won't run you over, I promise. It's got safety in place, but you'll see more and more of those going through the stores. Other things we're doing in this space are in the maintenance side as well. You'll see a lot of cleaners and automated robotics we're doing today. This is all computer vision. This is all data science behind the scenes. So it's the direction we're going. All right, so I've talked about some of the things we're doing, talked about some of the things we're seeing in the industry on digital transformation. Now, what's the real holdup, or what's the challenges we've run into? If you look at it, retail's working really hard to try to change our industry, right? But the talent base that's required for retailing historically and the talent base that we need today are very different. For example, you need data scientists. Cybersecurity is something to worry about. What if somebody hacks into your Oscar? Information technology, obviously very big. Product management and technology. We've changed the way we look at things. We have very much a product view of the world. And then also classic software engineering as well as UX design. Everything we do today from a software side touches a customer, whether it's one of our associates, which is 2.3 million of, or it's one of our customers. This isn't your standard retail base. You can't take necessarily individuals that worked on the operating floor in one of the retailers and say, tomorrow you're going to develop software, you're going to design the front end of what that user interface might be. So there's a huge need here. We're not the only ones. Every other retailer is dealing with the same thing. The one that we actually have the biggest problem with, the massive shortage, that's right, it's all of you. Everybody has this challenge. And why? The reason we all have this challenge is because it's very hard to find a true data scientist. There's a lot of software engineers that do data science roles. There's a lot of mathematicians, statisticians that do data science roles. But there's very few what I would call those unicorn data scientists, where they truly are across of all three domains, business, tech, math, and stat. And so for us, this is a constant challenge. It's something we're working on. One of the reasons why we present at conferences like this is to meet more of you. Incremental to that, it's also show the things that we're doing so you can see the kind of work that we do. But not just that, it's also to start talking about how do we actually transform and create more data scientists. We have a large internal program around training, where we're trying to train data scientists from our software engineers, from our business analysts. We're trying to meet it both ways. We're trying to provide more self-service tools to bring their skill level up so they can do data science type of work, even if they started more as a business analyst. At the same time, we're trying to train the engineers and meet in the middle and create more data scientists. So it's a huge challenge. I think you all probably have the same. Again, there's not enough of us sitting in the room today across the industries. I think statistics I showed is there was a 50% deficit in the last year of data scientists compared to demand. And they expect that to get bigger, specifically in the management layer. There's a lot of young talent coming out that's more trained, but there's not a lot of the talent to manage them. And we all know that can be a little bit risky. So that's a big area that we're focused on as a company. It's one of the biggest challenges we have. So I think one of the key things I'll say here is that I talked about talent, I talked about what we've done, I've talked about some of the things that we're doing. But it's not just about talent, it's also about changing the way you think. That's been one of my biggest learnings here at Walmart and in my past companies. You got to think differently when you're trying to solve a problem from a data science perspective compared to a software perspective, compared to a business ops perspective, right? So what are we doing? What will we be doing and why? Ask that question up front. Second, why are we doing it, right? This is actually a really big one. I get a lot of projects. I think my project list, honestly, is probably about 198 at any given time is the average weekly projects that come across my desk. A full list, that's how many that fall in the data science environment. I look at them sometimes and question, why are we doing this? Is it cool? Is it something we want to do? It's a great problem to solve. Data scientists, I love that myself, right? We love solving hard challenges. But then I look at it and say, what's the payoff at the end? Is there a business problem for it? Does our customer need this to be better for them? And that's what our always driving question is. Does the customer care about this? If they don't, maybe we shouldn't do it. How are you going to do it? This is a big one. When you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So if I'm an engineering-focused data scientist, and I think everything should be deep learning, and I focus only on that, well, what if it's actually a basic problem I could solve a classic linear regression? It's market basket analysis. Or if you flip it, you have the classic approaches being used on some things that just can't be solved. Our distribution center problem, for example, so massive that it's pure straight up constrained optimization, requires GPUs to run. The classic methods don't work well on it. There's sort of problems we have. So when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, but you have to ask yourself, what's the right technique? And then what has been or will be learned? This is actually one of the big questions we ask. If we're not learning anything, why are we doing it? It's not truly science if we're not learning anything. And so that's one of the questions we ask ourselves every day when we do this type of work. And last but not least, and it kind of goes back to the value, driving value. What will be done differently in the future as a result of this exercise? Everything we do as data scientists, we can drive the best insights in the world. But if you don't actually change the business process associated with it to leverage them, it was a waste of time and money. You have to take action. So for us, if you can't answer these 5 questions on any exercise around data or data science, we don't do them. And you know why? Because it's a waste of money. So we focus on value, driving value, and making sure that we change the business. I always say to my team and to the other executives at Walmart, I'm not here to do more of the same. I'm here to change how we do things. And that's the beauty of data and data science. We can actually change how the industry runs. And so these are 5 questions we ask ourselves every day when we go through the work. So I'm looking, I think I have about 7 minutes, and I'll be able to do a little Q&A because that was what I came to share today. So about 7 minutes, see if you guys have any questions, and can do some open Q&A. Thank you.
How do you get other executives to buy into that change?
That's always the biggest challenge with data and data science, right? I was asked on my first day on the job, what's the biggest challenge you run into? I think everybody expects you to say the word technology. It's not. The biggest challenge is culture, always is. How do you get somebody that's been doing something in the operations for 30 years to realize that you might be able to do it better or faster with data and tech, right? So 2 or 3 things. We communicate a lot, we train a lot, and then 3, we also do a lot of value proof. Proof of value type of approaches where we actually work with the business hands-on, work with them, and I'm a firm believer of working in their environment. I do a lot of walking the line. I go to the stores. I go to the distribution centers to really understand what they're doing on a daily basis. Once you do that, you start delivering some value, you'd be surprised how quick they follow along behind it, but it is an uphill battle at first. Probably is for all of you at your companies as well, I'm assuming.
I've spent a lot of time in my organization as the sort of data science team trying to upskill the kind of analytics community and a lot of the sort of heritage roles. Are there kind of any, it sounds like you guys have a very great approach. Is there any lessons learned you could share on how you kind of start converting those old school traditional analytics roles into the new generation?
So I think it's a combination of 2 things. One is community and one is training and education, right? So we attack it at both levels. We actually go through the exercise of training and upskilling. And not everybody can be upskilled, and not everybody wants to be. That's also something you have to figure out, right? So we want to take the individuals that want to learn the new skills, and then we provide them the training. Pretty straightforward there, right? We actually have curriculums around data science that we provide to engineers and also data analysts, business analysts. We recognize they'll never be the exact same, but if I can get them to do the lower end work here, and I can get them to focus on the more sophisticated data science, works very well for us. The second part is community. We have a very big data science community inside of Walmart, and one of the things we've rolled out, we have a council with the head of the data scientists from each organization, and myself, we sit down and monthly and go through things, tooling we should be using, different approaches we should be looking at, and then we have community days where we actually have monthly calls where we bring everybody together, and we bring in a guest speaker, we bring in once somebody shared their project on what they're doing, and the whole purpose is to try to get learnings across so that we can start trying to improve everybody. Problem you have at a company the size of Walmart is that it's so big that it's easily defined. It's very easy to find this group, and this group all doing the same thing. Part of my job at the center is to make sure that we're doing it once and we do it well. So that's what we do. I think that it's a long road. We still have a lot of work to do there. Just sheer size. You know, it's hard to understand the size of it from the outside. Once you're inside, it's big.
So robots are cool, right? They look really good on slides. And I think that what we've seen in my company too is that you get a lot more data using that automated data collection. But from your perspective, how is the value of that data different than what you'd collect at a traditional point of sale system?
Typically, I wouldn't say it's more valuable or less valuable. It's a different data asset that we can use, right? So when you're trying to solve any data science problem, the more data, typically the better. From that perspective, that's what we use. So in that case, it's actually telling us what's on the shelf. And we have our point of sales, and then we have the information coming off the truck. Now we can triangulate all three together. Without that piece of information, all we know is what's happened at the point of sales and what came off the truck and what the supplier shipped us. We're missing the actual validation of what's on the shelf. So for us, it's a validation point, and it's also an operator's reporting type of tool. Works very well. That's just one example. There's other things we do. We have a lot of robotics in our distribution facilities and FCs as well. Data capture allows us to triangulate information and also augment decisions we're already making. So we did have a solution in place for that. This is incremental data that's made us to be more accurate. Cool. So.
Hey, so I've worked in software and I've also worked at a company very similar to Walmart. I've been a data scientist at a company similar to Walmart. I spent a lot of time building vaporware at that particular company. And I have never seen a coherent process strategy that works to implement a data science solution internally. Right? So for example, at the company I worked at, you had human beings who were executing by inventory purchases, right? And I designed algorithms that were meant to automate that entire process. But you could never get management or a process strategy in place to get them to see, no, you just need a couple of people monitoring the system, right? I'm curious your thoughts as to how to get through that.
So two things. For me, I actually come from a background perspective, I come more from the implementation side than I actually do from the science side on the front end. So for me, any project always has implementation in mind. If I can't figure out how I'm going to implement it, I won't even actually do the project. Like, that's one of my rules. A couple of my data scientists that used to work for me are in the room, and I'm sure they're familiar with my rules, which is, if it kind of goes back to the question, if you're not going to make money off of it, then why are you doing it? Or it's not going to make our customer experience better. If you can't explain it, why are you doing it? And third is, if you can't implement it, definitely don't do it. So they're kind of three rules I always use in my head. That being said, adoption, I think, is what you're talking about, right? You know, you can build the best solution, but if they don't adopt it. So we're doing a lot of work on our side to actually cross the line over into the business and sit, like I talked about, going to the FCs, going to distribution centers, go to stores, see what they really do for a living. Because what I find in data science is that often you build something maybe they don't even need, right? So we're trying to meet them on their ground and say, what do you actually need to do your job better? The other thing we believe heavily in is augmenting decision-making processes, not necessarily replacing decision processes, but augmenting. So our buyers all have machine learning-driven systems that actually pop up and say, this is what we think, but the buyer has 25 years of experience. It's a combination of the two we find to be better than doing either of them separate. So that's what we do. It's always an uphill battle and always will be. I started a long time ago in collection analytics. I remember the operational negation that would happen there. I developed a great strategy. They wouldn't use it. So then we had auto dialers to make them call who we wanted. You know, to me, I think it's best to work with them closely for adoption. But that also means you have to work closely with them, which means, going back to the different types of skills and talent, you have to actually think through, what type of people do I need for that role? That sometimes isn't necessarily somebody that builds the models for you or the constraint optimization. There's a different skill set there, right? So you have to think through that. Anybody else? I think there's one back.
Yes, it's me here. So could you say a few words on the e-commerce part of Walmart? I mean, you talk about, supply chains, retail inventory and stuff, but I didn't hear anything to say about how you guys, what's your policy in terms of e-commerce? How you use data to link e-commerce data to your retail data. Do you have something to say about that?
So I didn't necessarily get the question perfectly. I think you're asking about our e-commerce business, how we're using data there.
Yes, and how do you correlate that data to everything you have into retail, yeah?
So to answer questions, we actually are merged from a distribution perspective. We have FCs for e-com and stores. We merge them together, one supply chain. We have a software solution that's been built to actually merge it. So we actually have one inventory perspective. One of the things we do is utilize our stores for fulfillment a lot. It's one of the advantages we have as a company. From a data perspective, we do have data that shows that you buy e-com versus you buy in the store. Some customers do both. Actually, I do both. Most customers do both. And it gives us a better, fuller profile of that individual. I kind of go back to what I said earlier, though, is one thing Walmart will never do is compromise trust. We absolutely won't do it. But that being said, if it's your data and you're shopping with us, we do use it. And if you go online, you can see on the store app, hey, look, we know you bought grapes last month. So we put back on your intelligent list or your predicted items, things like that. So we do use the data for that purpose. And we try to use the omni-channel to drive value for the customer. That answer your question? Okay. Okay, so I think I'm over. They're probably going to kick me off in a second. Anybody else have one more question? Or no? Okay. All right, thank you guys. Everybody enjoy your holiday weekend. Thanks.